One cherry tomato in July can drink enough water to make your 21-day plant-a-promise feel very optimistic. I'm Grant, Fiona's here, and this is Rude Insect.
And today we're talking container garden self-watering systems, which sounds boring until you come home from a weekend trip and your basil looks like old confetti.
I used to think self-watering meant I buy a gadget and stop thinking about plants. That is apparently not what it means.
It means you think less often, not never. Big difference.
All right, it is time for Grant's garden mistake. A few summers ago, I left a tomato, 2 peppers, and a heroic little basil plant on a brick patio during a hot weekend. I watered Friday morning, felt like a responsible adult, and came back Sunday to what I can only describe as vegetable grief. The tomato was folded over the cage, the basil had crisped at the edges, and I blamed the weather like I wasn't the one who put them on a patio that becomes a baking sheet by 3 p.m.
The weather was an accomplice. You were the planner.
Fair. So for 2026, the article tested the stuff people actually buy for patio vegetables. Reservoir planters, small drip kits, and ceramic watering stakes. And the top pick was not the fanciest looking thing.
No, the first system I'd consider for most mixed patios is the Raindrip R560DP automatic container and hanging baskets kit. It's not glamorous. It's tubing, emitters, stakes, little connectors, and a short period where you wonder why everything is wet except the pot you meant to water.
But it handles a group. That's the key. If you've got 1 tomato, 2 peppers, a basil pot, and maybe a hanging basket, a drip kit can water the whole little patio village.
Exactly. A self-watering planter usually serves 1 container. A ceramic stake usually serves 1 container. A drip kit can scale across several pots, and it waters slowly, which matters more than people think.
Because dumping a watering can into a dry pot just makes a tiny flood channel down the side.
Especially in containers. On a hot south-facing patio, the top few inches of potting mix can crust over even when there's still some moisture lower down. Slow drip helps water soak in instead of bouncing off, carving holes, or splashing soil onto basil leaves.
So the rain drip is the buy first option?
For a mixed patio, yes. But not 5 minutes before leaving town. You need time to place the pots, cut or route tubing, test each emitter, and watch a couple watering cycles. If one pot is farther away, higher up, or packed with roots, it may not get the same flow.
So you're saying I cannot assemble this in sandals while the car is running?
I am begging you not to.
What about reservoir planters? Because those feel like the lazy gardener's dream. Fill the bottom, walk away, accept compliments.
They can be really good. The self-watering planter with 21 days watering-free, 1 pot, 2 PCs is the simple version people understand quickly. Water goes in a reservoir under the soil, and roots pull moisture upward as needed.
21 days sounds amazing.
Maybe. For parsley on a partly shaded porch, that number may feel realistic. For a full-size slicing tomato on black pavers during a 94-degree week? No. Once tomatoes start sizing fruit, they can move water fast. A 10-gallon tomato container in July can surprise you.
Basil is less dramatic?
Usually. Time is easier. Mint is a thug, but not always a thirsty thug. Peppers are somewhere in the middle. The plant, pot size, sun exposure, wind, and potting mix all change the math.
And reservoir planters don't need a hose, timer, battery, app, or the mystery drawer of garden parts.
That's their biggest advantage. They're tidy and simple. The trade-off is flexibility. You're committed to that planter, and if you already own a bunch of 5-gallon nursery pots or 27-gallon totes, a drip kit may fit your real setup better.
Where do ceramic watering stakes land?
Maybe category. They're fine for an herb pot, a vacation backup, or a plant that only needs gentle supplemental moisture. But I wouldn't trust 1 clay stake and a bottle to carry a fruiting tomato through a heat wave.
The tomato hears vacation backup and says, I require infrastructure.
Pretty much. Also, No watering system fixes bad soil. If you fill a container with heavy yard dirt or cheap topsoil, it can compact like a brick. Use a real potting mix with good drainage, especially for patio vegetables.
Fiona. Give us Fiona's 30-second verdict.
Yes to the Raindrip R560DP, if you have multiple containers and can test it before relying on it. Because slow, targeted watering solves the crusty surface problem better than hand watering. Yes, with caution, to reservoir planters for herbs, peppers, or smaller setups. But don't assume 21 days applies to a giant tomato in full sun. Maybe on ceramic stakes, useful for small pots and short absences. Not my main plan for thirsty vegetables.
So the practical answer is, match the system to the patio, not the fantasy version of the patio where I labeled everything and measured water flow.
Correct. And if your patio is zone 6B brick in late July, assume it is trying to cook dinner without asking you.
I like the drip kit for mixed containers, a reservoir planter for simple herb and pepper growers, and ceramic stakes only when the stakes are low. Pun partially intended.
I'm allowing it because the advice was decent.
If this helped, hit subscribe. We drop 3 new episodes every week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so you don't have to hunt for the next one.
Thank you for listening to this edition of RudeInsect.com, Conversations with Grant and Fiona.